What's going on, people? Welcome to the latest live Palace news. We're going to be discussing about the manager situation, looking at also potential outgoings at the club that's been reported already. But don't worry, it's not one of the major players. But we'll be discussing all the latest Palace news. As always, we want you to get involved. So leave down your comments in the comment section down below. If you do enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe as well. T, how you doing, man? You ran away from all the problems that we've been having in the past 4 or 5 days. Now you're appearing. Where you been?
I wish I could keep running. I wish I could keep running, man.
I don't even blame you.
It's been rough, man. I'm not looking forward to talking about some of this stuff, but here we go.
Okay, no. Let's before we start, the viewers haven't had your thoughts on the Vieira sacking. It's the first time since Vieira's been sacked you've been on the channel. So quickly, what's your thoughts on that before we get into the show?
I'm hurt, man. I hate it. I hate the move. I feel like it's unjust. I don't think it was the right thing to do, man. I mean, knowing where we are, where we're headed towards the month of April and the end of the year, I think the least that they could have done with him is giving them the opportunity to see some of these fixtures that we're going to get in April. One, two of them. You know, I just feel like, and the timing of the sack was just horrible. Like, I feel like if you're going to sack him, they should have done it earlier in the week to give us time to prepare for the match, to get things together. I think overall, our board and Steve Parrish showed a huge amount of inability to plan, irresponsibility. I don't think that they are going to take the accountability that's necessary in the situation. I mean, you're seeing reports of the fact that they were thinking about sacking him in February and of last year, and it's like, yo, between February and now, if Roy Hodgson is your answer, if that was the solution back then, it's an issue, man. So I feel like the planning, the decision making from the top has just been absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, 100%. Look, we're going to talk about that in more detail anyways. But let's start off with the first bit of news that came out today is from the Evening Standard. And Joe Wood actually spoke about it yesterday. So technically it was yesterday, but we're talking about today. And Joe Wood, before the game started, he was selected to speak. He came out, and it's the first time, of course, these players have spoken since Viera has been sacked. And he came out and said that the Crystal Palace squad were surprised by the sacking of Patrick Vieira and called for unity as, you know, we fight to avoid the drop. But for you, T, how does that comments make you feel? Because there was talks about people were saying Vieira lost the dressing room. Me personally, I didn't agree with it. But Joe Wood saying that he was surprised by the sacking of Vieira. Do you think it's a case of the players still had belief in him even before he got sacked?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number one, it shows you that Patrick Vieira hadn't lost the dressing room whatsoever. Number two, that the players believed in him, believed that what they were doing, they were together in going forward and making sure that we finish out the season strong. And the fact that nobody probably expected him to lose his job. I don't think anybody expected him to get the sack. I mean, I think they all understood the how valid the situation they were in and how tough the run of games was, but they also knew what they had coming ahead in April too. So I think Joe Ward speaks from a place of commonality to us as fans. We didn't expect it. I don't think anybody could understand it. But at the same time, they have to get together. They have to come together now as just a core of players, not even the manager and coaches anymore, the coaching staff, because before it was the players and the coaching staff coming together to understand that they have to finish the season strong. Now it's just the players having to say, hey man, we gotta come together, we gotta get this together ourselves to go forward and try to stay up, man. It's like I said, it's a lack of competence at the highest level of our club.
Yeah, it is. And look, we're going to talk about competence in just now, to be fair, because let's move on to the second bit of story, which is from The Athletic, very reliable source. And they have reported earlier on today that Roy Hodgson is expected back at Crystal Palace's training ground this week and bearing any last-minute changes or plans will be charged for reviving a team short of belief and lifting a club in crisis. So the Athletic is saying that Roy Hodgson will be back at Crystal Palace this week. And there's been various reputable sources that's come out and said it in the past few days as well that we've contacted Roy Hodgson. So this Roy Hodgson thing is true. There is truth to it. Of course, bearing any last-minute changes, which I don't think is going to happen at this point. I just want to say this: if a manager gets sacked for lack of, results on the pitch, I feel like the people at the top also should be held accountable for their actions. Yep. As you said, it's been about 13 months since they seriously considered sacking, sacking Patrick Vieira. In them 13 months, is the best option that you can get is Roy Hodgson and the likes of Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard that's been listed in the 13 months. Clearly, you didn't have any faith in him. If that's the case, then that is a sackable offense as well, because that's unacceptable by all levels. If it was something that happened in the short term, 100% get it, but they did have belief in him. If you don't have belief in a manager, even if you're not contacting managers, you should have a way better shortlist. All the manager names that's been coming out, the likes of Jesse Marsh, Hasenhuttl, Roy Hodgson, these are managers that's been a failure so far recently in the Premier League, most recently this year. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Jesse Marsh, Hasenhuttl, these are managers that got sacked for dragging clubs into the relegation zone. So if that's the case, then the people at the top have to be held accountable as well. You sack Patrick Vieira for the lack of results on the pitch. Questions need to be asked on you as well, because they're not doing their job right. If they think that 13 months' time, when they've had doubts for Patrick Vieira, that the best option is Roy Hodgson and all those names that I've listed, then they are not fit to take us on to the next. Pretty much sums up their ceiling at the football club as it stands right now. If their ceiling is try a new manager, don't back him, don't improve the squad, then go back to the old manager that wasn't successful. I absolutely hated Roy Hodgson ball. I hated football, watching football under Roy Hodgson. And I don't want to sound disrespectful to Roy Hodgson in a way, because he was put in the position to do a job, and technically he did do the job. He did keep us up. But now it's going to be so toxic, and it goes back to the owners. How on earth have we reached back this stage that we was back in 2018, back here at this stage right now? It's totally unacceptable. So for me, it starts from the top. Bring back Roy Hodgson. Out you go from the other door as well, because it's totally unacceptable. It's crazy. Yep. I don't think it's crazy. It's not even the fact that we're pointing Roy Hodgson. It's the whole context of things. The fact that we wanted to get rid of Viera about 13 months ago. But T, what's your thoughts on Hodgson coming back this week?
To me, first of all, I think it's terrible. I think it's horrible. I don't look forward to it. I hated watching our team when he was the manager and the way we played. Pundits have said it. Other managers have said it. Our fans have said it. When you bring in somebody to, quote unquote, keep a team up, usually that's in the form of a team that's leaking goals, meaning to shore up defensively in order to stay up in the league. That's not our issue. We're not leaking goals. That's not this team's problem. Problem is scoring them. And if you think about somebody like Roy Hodgson and what he was to our team before and how he played and what our outcomes were, I don't see the outcomes of his matches being very much different from what we were already getting with Patrick Vieira. The only difference being the quality of competition that we'll be playing in these final couple months. I still think with Roy, you'll see us playing in a lot of 1-0 matches, and not a lot of 0-0 matches, just because of the way he wants to set us up and the way he wants to play. So I don't see the reason why you would bring in a manager like that to try and make sure that we can stay up. Like that's not the move. I mean, if that was the case, we could have just kept what we had and just going forward. And even then, it would have been more attacking. It would have been more fluid of a style under Patrick Vieira. So once again, that just makes me more confused as to why this was the move. The thing that gets me, D, is as people in the real world, if you have a job and you're unhappy with it and you want to leave it, the one thing you don't do is leave that job without other assurances. I'm not going to just quit a job, lose income, and wonder, oh man, where am I going to get paid from? How am I going to live? So there's no reason why a club should fire a manager and have no plan and not know who you're going to bring in, not who you're looking at, or who you want to be the next manager. Brighton lost their manager mid-season.
They lost their whole backroom stuff as
well.
They lost their whole backroom.
They lost everything.
Everything.
And
They lost
they
everything.
had
Their best
somebody
player,
in place. They had somebody in place to take over and to take them forward and debatably beyond where they were within a very short amount of time. But they knew exactly who they were going to go after before they allowed Potter to leave. Why would we fire a manager only to say, okay, now who are we going to bring in? What are we going to do?
So stupid. It's so
and then
stupid.
you take a step back
starts from the top.
by bringing a negative influenced game style or gameplay style of a manager into the fold. It doesn't make sense.
Forget about negative. Forget about negative. Sorry to cut you off, but the one thing that we was half decent under Viera is our defense. We weren't leaking that many goals against quality opposition. Now, our problems have been going in. Yeah, and our problems have been trying to score goals and create chances. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I never knew Roy Hodgson to be an attacking manager to solve attacking problems. We saw it at Palace. I've seen it over his career as well. I mean, that's why he hasn't been as successful at the top jobs, because he hasn't been that type of attacking manager. So if we have a problem in attack and our defense is already sorted, why would you bring a defensive manager to have the same problems over and over again? It doesn't make any sense. If the team does stay up, I know the board will try to act like, oh, see, we've done it right and it was all right. In all honesty, I think the players will keep us up because of the quality that we have on the pitch. I don't think
here's the thing that worries me. What Michael says right here. This is what worries me. How would the players get motivated from this decision? And it's really twofold when you think about it. It's the fact that you fired the manager out of nowhere, seemingly, to where they felt like it wasn't coming. It wasn't one of those things that should be happening. So you take them by surprise there, which was confirmed by Joe Ward. But then you take a step back by bringing in somebody like Roy Hodgson and also showing that you didn't have a plan in place of how we move forward. As a player, how do I prepare myself and get myself up to the fight that's ahead? Wilf may love Roy Hodgson as a person, but he probably hated playing in that system.
I just don't get it. Well, he put a transfer request under Roy Hodgson. The people forget about that. He put a transfer request under Hodgson. That them talks disappeared under Vieira. We didn't have the talks about Wilf.
There was never a question of whether Wilf wanted to play under him. You know what I mean?
It's mental, man. It's genuinely mental. The fact that we're struggling to score goals and we're bringing back Roy Hodgson, I'm sorry, man. That's a sackable offense. I'm just done. Because end of the day, look, there's also reports and people mentioned it in the chat. Adi Hutter, I think from Borussia Mönchengladbach, he recently got sacked there, but he done well in Frankfurt. But that story for me it doesn't make any sense. Because first of all, the system that he plays requires very good fullbacks because he likes to play 3 at the back. We don't have that. And this is my issue. If we solve the whole squad problems and then afterwards Viera didn't get results, fair enough. But even if you bring in another manager, even if you bring in another manager like Adi Hutter, well, he doesn't have the players to play that system, so it's going to be the same thing. What, Nathaniel Klein as a right wing back?
It becomes cyclical. It becomes cyclical, and really that cycle of that cycle dynamic like that shows that there is an issue where at the top. You're not being run. You're not being run well, and I think that's one of the issues that's holding Crystal Palace back. I think that's one of the issues, or one of the things that you see from other clubs, and why they say, "Oh, tin pot, small club," because we're run like we're damn near a League One team, rather than a team that's been in the Premier League for a decade plus. We shouldn't be having these type of. We shouldn't be having these type of issues as a club after 10 years in the Premier League. It shouldn't be happening.
We shouldn't be. I mean, look at teams around us. So teams that are on a similar wavelength to us. And I mentioned these 2 teams because they stand out to me, not only just for this season, I think even last season, Brentford and Brighton. Those teams are teams that we should be competing with. But for me, the difference between those teams and our team is that it feels so old school. oh, just pick out a manager without no proper analysis. I mean, some of the names that's being mentioned, it's beyond ridiculous.
The fact that anybody would even mention Frank Lampard is, I wanted to curse. It's not even. It's unreal. It's unreal that somebody will say maybe Frank Lampard is an option.
We sacked our manager.
The only reason why he's an option is because he have a job.
Lampard. We got results against Frank Lampard. Our previous manager did. I mean, he got results against Lampard. So when you compare tactics like that, then I know most recently we lost to 3-0 to Everton. I get that, but we managed to get we beat them 4-0, was it 4-1 in the FA Cup, and we beat them last season. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Even like the likes of Steven Gerrard, it doesn't make any sense because ever since Michael Beale went to Rangers and left Steven Gerrard, he's lost his composure. Clearly, he was the second man that was pulling the strings. But for me, the thing I'm annoyed about more than anything is, yes, Roy Hodgson coming back isn't progressive and it isn't the most.
It is a step. It is a step back.
But the thing that annoys me more than that is the fact that there was no succession plan. That's what annoys me. That's what annoys me. And also, T, another thing. Look, I quickly will mention that right now and then move on to the other stories. Mm-hmm. If you look at teams around us, I mean, we made some very good recruitment. I'm not going to sit here and act like we made some bad decisions with recruitment. We brought in Elise, Mark Gahey, but there's a familiar trend. I mean, if it's not France or Germany, it's from the UK. Now I'm going to bring this up. I'm not saying that there's 50 Mitomas out there, but you don't find Mitoma unless you have a proper infrastructure and a scout system. You simply don't. You simply don't find a player from Japan, from a university in Japan, unless you do that. So for me, even though we found these gems, why is our recruitment so limited? When's the last time we looked at, I don't know, South America?
And that's exactly what you were saying. I remember you tweeting about that because our scouting department is too limited. Once again, we've been in the Premier League for the last 10 years, for the last decade. Why is our scouting department still so limited, still so small? Like, why can no one mention anybody in our scouting department except for Dougie Freeman? Because we don't know. And it's obvious that it's tiny and we're not getting to other places. And it's just, it
feels limited anyways.
It feels extremely limited because you see teams around us like Leeds United. Where did Leeds United go and get the Nyanto dude? Like, went out and got him for $3 million, bro. Like, and they're talking about 20 plus million for him next year from other teams. Like you said, Mitoma. Like, it's obvious where we're.
That they got Brighton. I mean, these are teams that we should be competing with. And if you don't have the money, this is my problem. This is my problem. If you don't have the money, that's fine to an extent. But you need to invest money in terms of the recruitment team because Brighton, by finding the Mitomas and the Caicedos, they can sell them on for higher value. And I guess we got players like that as well, with Elise saying Gahey, etc. And we can get a bit more return on our investment. But I mean, Caicedo, we're talking about £80 million worth of player. Mitoma, similar £50 million worth of player. If you at least invest in terms of the the recruitment side of things and try to find these gems more often than not, because I don't think anyone knew about Caicedo before. I don't think anyone knew about Mitoma and a few other players at Brighton before. A lot of those guys,
they're pulling a ton of guys out of South America. McAllister out of South America, Estupinan out of South America, Caicedo out of South America, the Enciso kid out of South America. They obviously have roots. They have an established scouting network in South America.
And what can they do? They can sell Caicedo because they've got a recruitment team. They can easily find a replacement.
It's
an ongoing cycle.
Because that's literally what happened.
They only improve.
Because we all thought, okay, when they got rid of Yves Bissouma, we were like, holy crap, they're going to be in trouble. They don't have Bissouma anymore. They knew it. They had Caicedo. They knew it. As soon as we let him go, we're going to get paid off of him. But we got this young guy right here that we know we can step in and he can do it. We don't have planning like that. We don't have foresight like that. There's no reason why you fire your manager and you don't have any type of understanding or insight on who you want to bring in or who's going to come in. But you want to bring in Roy Hodgson back to the club as if we care about some nostalgia about his old ass.
I mean, I think they get this period they've got exposed heavily. I think they've got exposed heavily about the stuff behind the scenes. Of course, I don't know exactly the system they use for scouting, but clearly there isn't a proper infrastructure in place. And I think that's where it lies. If you don't have the money, you need to at least have the infrastructure in place for scouting and trying to find these gems. And by the way, I'm not saying that we haven't found some of these. I think Elise is a fantastic signing. Gay, he will pay off, as they should pay off as well. There are some of these players that are very good, but it's very limited.
And if
The
you
players
think
that we're
about
bringing
some
in
of
is
the,
very
and if you
limited.
think about some of the
It's in
guys
this
that we
country or
brought
Europe.
in, and you think about some of the guys that we brought in more recently, it wasn't because of our scouting system necessarily. It's because it was because of our connections with Patrick Vieira. I said
French guys. Yeah.
I said the last time we were on air. I said the last time we were on air, you don't get Decore without Patrick Vieira. You don't get Lakonga without Patrick Vieira. You don't get Naui Hamada without Patrick Vieira. You probably don't get Chris Richards from Bayern Munich without Patrick Vieira. It's not our scouting department. It was the clout of our manager that got guys to come in, and you've taken that away now. So in essence, you've taken away a huge chunk of our scouting department and our scouting ability.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you have to have one thing, either money or have the infrastructure in place, and right now it doesn't seem like it. But look, if Roy Hodgson does come in, of course we'll talk about it once he does get appointed. If he does get appointed, the report from the Athletic suggesting that unless something changes last minute, he's expected at training ground this week. So we'll see what happens with that. But I expect him to be at the training ground this week. I don't think anything's going to change. If Roy Hodgson does come in, T, does it change your perspective on whether we can stay up or get relegated?
Honestly, the reason why I worry about staying up is only because of the fact that with Roy's system, we don't necessarily win fixtures. You know what I'm saying? Like winning matches with Roy is a bonus. You know what I'm saying? And if we think about where we need to be for safety and what was being projected is like 3 wins. And it's like, can we get 3 wins in our next 10 with Roy? I really can't say yes to that. I don't know, because I think we might get a ton of freaking ties and some losses in there, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get 3 wins under him with his system. You know what I mean? I don't know. So, I mean, that's what worries me is, and it's not like Roy's coming back to us after in his most recent time was with us, keeping us up. That wasn't the most recent managerial job he's done. He was with Watford and he didn't keep them up. They went down. So his last relegation scrap, his last battle to keep a team up did not go well. So
to be fair, when you first joined us, this is the only thing I'm trying to find the positives out of this, because trust me, there's no positives. I'm flipping pissed off, but I'm trying to find the positives. To be fair, when you first joined us, if you can have that impact, it wasn't too bad. You know, the first season, it wasn't too bad. So maybe if he has that impact for 10 games, we get through it. But then again, it's a bigger picture for me. It's the bigger picture. It's not just about the next 5 or 10 games. It's the bigger picture. We had a manager. We didn't back him. What's the plan in the summer? That's what worries me the most. What's going to happen with these players? Are these players going to leave? Who wants to stay now that Viera's gone? Because I truly believe that some of them did come up because of Viera. Who's going to leave? How are we going to replace them? I've got bigger problems than just Roy Hodgson. I think in the short term, I think we will stay up with Roy Hodgson because I've got the players to stay up. But then again, it's against sides lower than us as well. So I don't think it's going to be purely on Roy Hodgson. But it's just a long-term picture. It's just stressful. It's like, what's the point of having a process or starting something new for you to just bin it or not have any succession plan?
And here's some things.
It's just tiring, man.
And here's some things that I guess stand out to me that kind of worry me, D, is the fact that, okay, number one, Roy's going to have to come in and try to implement his system on a very, very short amount of time to try and get us to stay up and do well in these next 10 fixtures. Okay, so he's got to put in a new system. Okay, number two, and this is one of the things I think about too, managers age like players age. And as they get older, they may not do so well later on in their careers for one reason or another, inability to adapt, changes in the game, whatever. Since Roy was here, he's gotten significantly older. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a good signal for us as far as his ability to convey his message, to to manage the squad. Like, I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to be good for us. We're a lot younger of a team than what he had when he was here last time. When he was here last time, he had a lot of older, established players that have played in many different places, different systems, have had a greater depth of understanding in football. So he might not have had to convey his messages deep with those guys because they have an understanding of the game overall. We got a lot of young guys that he's got to not only get his message across to and teach, but he has to be relatable to them. Bro, you're almost 70 years old dealing with 20-year-old kids. Like, that's not going to be easy at all in a short amount of time either. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of stuff, man, that really does worry me about bringing him in.
And ideas can get predicted. I mean, at Watford, they don't work out. Let's just say that. People that think that Roy is just a safe hand to keep teams up. I'm not saying we'll get relegated, but that's not
Roy's
the case
not coming.
Anymore.
Roy's not coming back with any new ideas, bro.
There's only one manager out there, maybe Sean Dyche, but even then, he's not. No one is safe hands. There's no manager that can 100% keep you up. He's been relegated with Burnley as well. Exactly. So for me, I think somehow we will stay up. But yeah, it is just bleak. And as I said it before, we'll wrap it up with this Roy talk and move on to the next bit of news. But as I said it before, if this is the best that you can do after seriously considering sacking a manager and then sacking him after 30 months, then you also deserve to get sacked. I'm sorry, you also deserve to get sacked because it's absolutely pathetic. That's some of the story that's coming out as well. £30 million that we didn't want to spend in January. It's just all pathetic. It's genuinely. It's just. There's so much conflict going on right now.
And it's crazy because we were talking about that whole thing about Textor. Like we're seeing the reports now that Textor put in that extra 30 mil that they get used. But when we were in the midst of the transfer window and people were bad mouthing John Textor, and this isn't me defending him necessarily, but I remember when we were in the middle of the transfer window in January, people were bad-mouthing the hell out of John Textor, saying that he was horrible, that he wasn't doing his job. And then when the report came out that him and Steve Parrish got into it about investment in the squad, and they were saying that John Textor wanted a bigger say. It wasn't that John Textor wanted a bigger say. It was just that, hey, man, I put in my $30 million. Let's make something happen. Go get some players. Let's make the team better. But then you got somebody like Parrish who's holding up the money, not using it appropriately, being frugal, having
but then again,
Parrish though. And now
the reason why I did in the first place is because it makes more sense. If you're going to write off the season and just say, all right, here's what it is, write off the season, we go again next season, players are out of contract, we can get better deals in the summer, get rid of some of these players and start fresh again and use that money where that money will be used even better because it'll be cheaper to get some of these players. I said, fair enough. But where I draw the line is if you don't want to spend the money in January and then you're concerned about the potential relegation battle that we're in, I already said it though in January. I said in January that we'll drop down to 15th, 16th. It wasn't a shock. When you looked at our fixture list, we was always going to struggle. So that wasn't a surprise to me. But then again, if you blame the manager for the lack of results after you decided not to spend, that's where I'm like, that's enough. Enough is enough. You're just taking the piss now.
And it's one of those
there's a time where you can wait and you can be sensible for the summer. But then if you blame that on the manager based on the decisions that you made, then that's on you. You get it? That's on you. That's on you. You have to pay the price for that. You can't just scapegoat the manager.
It makes me think though, because in the fall, he put in a certain amount of money that helps to infuse the team. He's willing to give you 30 just for January. He says this 30 is for January. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to invest money here in January to where we get to the summer. Who knows how much more we're going to get because we're going to have more funds from staying in Premier League. He's probably going to have more money in his pocket to add to the kitty for the summer. Who's to say he doesn't add more down the road too? You know, I just don't understand why we have the opportunity to, and like I said, I mean, we're not talking about, you know, rebuilding the team. You know, 30 million might get us 2 solid key players, you know what I'm saying, that could be added to the team. And we're not, like you said, you know, we're still writing off the season, so to speak. But it's just the fact that, but we're going to add some key components for the future so that we don't have to try and spend as much or put our eggs in all the basket of that the summer is. Let's add some key pieces now with the money that he's given us and saying this is for this. Let's add those pieces to where we don't have as much added pressure on the summer now.
By the way, our approach going into the window, I think people are forgetting. But remember, there was an interview on Palace TV. Literally, there was an interview where Steve Parish came out and said about our approach to the January transfer window. The guy was just talking about loan signings, and there was an uproar that they deleted the video. So there's clearly no ambition going into this transfer window in the first place. And that's why I've said it before in previous streams. I'll say it here again as well. They set him up. They set up Vieira for failure. Honestly, they set him up for failure. The reason why I'm saying that is because we didn't build on last season. We didn't build on it in the summer. And then afterwards, I said, fine, we can do it in January. Same thing happens in January. We're still not bringing in the players that we need to bring in. I mean, we got rid of... Look, normally, I said this as well before on Twitter as well. I said, if you get rid of a player like Benteke, yes, was it the right time? 100% it was the right time to get rid of Benteke. But when you get rid of a player, the bare minimum you can do is to replace him. But ideally, you want to improve on him to build onwards from there. But we didn't replace him, let alone improve on him.
And then think about this, D. Think about this.
That's the problem.
It is a clear and obvious calling card of the people that are running this club. Because when we had I can go back even further. When we had Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he was loaned in, and we knew that if he plays well for us, we're probably not going to be able to re-sign him because it's going to cost too much. So what do we need to do? We need to replace him. We need to make sure we bring in a quality replacement. We didn't do it. We got fast forward. We got all the way to Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher comes in, tears it up for us. Really happy with him. But we know with him going back with our loan and not having to buy, we're not going to be able to afford him. We need to replace him. We didn't replace Conor Gallagher. We got rid of Benteke. Hey, sell Benteke. But you don't have a plan to bring in another striker another time. Hey, we're going to get rid of Patrick Vieira. You're going to get rid of him, and you don't have a replacement. It is a clear and present indicator that from the top, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have a plan. They don't have anything in place to account for the moves that they're making. It's almost like they're just flying by the seat of their pants.
It's just, it's beyond ridiculous. Honestly, it's just genuinely beyond ridiculous. And that's what I'm talking about. It's bigger than Roy Hodgson. It's bigger than Patrick Vieira. Vieira's gone. He's not going to come back. That's not what we're talking about. It's just a fact that we're lost out there. There's so many question marks out there. It's just genuinely unbelievable. Benteke, he was going to go. Who made a decision that we don't need another striker? Like, who made that decision?
Why is that? Whose idea was that?
Who thought it would be good to have only two strikers? I mean, But by the way, we still haven't replaced Benteke. We still haven't replaced Conor Gallagher because Lukonga in the Gallagher replacement, and nor is Doucouré. We still haven't replaced that. We still haven't replaced Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and this is where the problem lies. We're talking about players that's left about 3 years ago. We still haven't replaced these players. We're talking about players that left in the summer. We didn't replace these players.
A plan. They don't have a plan. It's terrible, terrible, terrible running from the top. And that's why you see so many clubs that are now passing by us because they have better infrastructure. They have better people that are in charge. They have actual, and let me say this. Steve Parish is not a football person. He's not. He is not a football guy. And it's
I think he is. I think he is.
No, what I'm saying is this. What I'm saying is this. He is not a director of football operations. He does not understand. He's not an edu at Arsenal.
Oh, so he's not like a football guy.
He's not a football guy. He's a businessman. He's a business guy. He's not a football guy. That means he doesn't understand the fact that you can't just get rid of somebody without having a solid plan of who you're going to bring in after it. You don't. And that's not how it works. Because in the business world, you fire somebody and then you go out and you comb applicants and you hire somebody. That's not how this works. You don't have time to scour and find a good applicant to hire. We got 10 games left, man. You got to have something in place. You got to put things in motion as soon as you make an action. It's not good enough to sign a guy on loan without the option to buy him. Be like, oh, good, we're fine. We got him all season. We got until the end of the season to worry about replacing him. No, man, you need to be scouting. You need to have things in place for the time when that guy's as soon, even before he's done, you should know exactly who you're gonna bring in, or exactly the short list of guys that you should be targeting to bring in. That is horrible running of this club from the top of it. And that's because you got a guy like Steve Parrish who doesn't have a director of football operations, who doesn't know the game.
But Dougie Friedman is that guy. He was meant to be that guy. But then again,
I mean, I don't think I think Dougie might be wearing too many hats then, because Dougie's also in charge of all the recruitment. You know what I'm saying? So like maybe we're too short-handed. I don't know.
I'd see that's fair. Look, what I do know is that Steve Parrish runs his football club, so he takes a responsibility. Just like, remember, we're talking about Sean Derry and Patrick Vieira. I said it, if he doesn't want Sean Derry at the football club. Also, that's another weird thing. Reports have come out suggesting that Sean Derry is on a gardening leave. Vieira sacked him, but the club didn't get rid of him. I mean, if you don't have faith in your manager like this, you should have just got rid of him when Sean Derry left as well. You should have just got rid of him then, because it's just absolutely crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, you didn't rate
doesn't make sense,
move that this guy made. Like, you just genuinely didn't make. It's just beyond ridiculous. But hopefully, this is a wake up call to the people that's running the football club. Hopefully, this is, maybe changes are needed. Maybe this was needed for us to progress onwards. But yeah, look, Parrish has done great things for the football club, but clearly something needs to change behind the scenes. And if it doesn't change, then it has to be him that changes, and someone needs to come in that can implement these ideas, because we're not the richest football club, so we need to make sure we make the most out of what we have right now. But yeah, look, it's frustrating as it is. But yeah, let's move on to the next bit of story, and that is on Michael Carrick. Quickly we mentioned this, but Michael Carrick was asked about the Palace job, and he said the following. He said, there hasn't been any communication, and I'm delighted to be here working with this group of players at this great club. So for you, T, just quickly on that, do you think it's a case of, when we're talking about this company that's come out, he was very opposed to the idea of Patrick Vieira getting sacked. Michael Carrick didn't really speak about as much in the Vieira case. But do you think this damages our chances of bringing a younger ambition manager because of, teams or managers looking at what we've done with Viera?
Absolutely. I mean, once again, we go back to the idea of hiring and firing. Why would somebody want to go to a work environment that's unhealthy? Because at the same time, it's a two-way street. Yes, we want you, but you got to want us too. You know what I'm saying? The contract is binding between two parties. And if one party isn't satisfied with what they're seeing from the other one, they're not going to sign on. So, first of all, I mean, with them questioning Michael Carrick, there's no scenario where Michael Carrick would be forthcoming and say, "Oh yeah, they reached out, we talked, they talked to my agent." No, he's not going to say that. That's bait. That will be stupid of him to ever speak on that as an active man, huh?
I don't think they approached Michael Carrick though.
I don't know. I don't know. They could. I mean, speaking about the idiocy of our club, they probably have approached him with the idea that they think they might have a chance, and they actually have no chance because they're not smart enough to know his situation is way better than what we have here. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna leave a good situation for a dumpster fire, man. You're not gonna do it. He's on the verge of possibly pushing into, like, they're number 3 right now in the championship, right? But there are a couple results away from hopping into the automatic promotion situation. So similar to what companies got going on, there's no reason why they would throw away what they've worked so hard for to this point to come here, because there's too many question marks. They don't know if they're going to get backed if they come here. Hell, they don't even know if they're going to have 2 years to try to get this right, because we didn't even give Patrick Vieira 2 years before we canned him. And just in December, you got this owner who was talking so highly of him, about how much they love him, about how everybody loves him, about how he's such an asset to the club, and we're so fortunate to have him.
Have you heard the stories about Viera? There's also this side of it. Have you heard the stories about Viera and Leeds and Viera losing confidence? He didn't feel like he was back. Have you read them stories?
Yeah,
so I want to quickly respond on that as well, because there might have been truth to that, and there probably was truth. And I'll say this here once again. I've said it before. If we did it back in the summer, Viera could easily walk out the door. So Viera contacting other clubs, or Viera being interested, he didn't contact other clubs. Sorry about that. I don't think that's the case, but he was genuinely curious about potentially the Leeds job. That happening is not surprising me. That happening is more of where we stand as a football club compared
The
to other
right,
football clubs.
he saw the
Leeds
writing
are
on the
below us,
wall.
and Leeds were struggling.
He saw the writing on the wall.
And that's the thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't back him, and he's looking to find a way to, you know, push onwards. And
Because
that's
if
the
you
crazy
think
thing about it. It just shows that even with Vieira, there's no hope. I mean, Vieira spoke about it at the last game of the season against Manchester United. After the game finished, he spoke with the fans. He said, we have high ambitions to push on. But I think he desperately wanted experience in this team.
Yep.
And we didn't deliver that. He desperately wanted more players.
Certain players in certain positions.
It started from the summer to the January window. Of course, he's going to want to, you know, potentially look at other jobs or want to move on, because this is a club that can't grow if they're not going to spend money. It's as simple as that.
And is it so wrong? Is it so wrong for him to be trying to preserve and protect his future? I mean, we work jobs every day, and if there's an opportunity out there that might be better than where we currently are, we can do the due diligence at least in looking into it. It's not a slap in the face to where we are. It's just to understand that, you know, we have to look out for number one, because he's in a situation where he's at a club that's not backing him, that probably made promises to him that they aren't keeping. And like you said,
I need to cut back in. So apparently after the World Cup, or I think during the World Cup, they were meant to hold contract talks because the contract was meant to run out in 2024. But after that, it didn't happen. And apparently the clubs are thinking was, because we're struggling, we're not going to hold contract talks. But I mean, based on based on the transfer window in the summer, based on January, based on contract talks, they just had no belief in this guy. They just didn't. Apart from the first summer that we had, that was it. And then after that, after January and February, they were seriously considering sacking him. And then this year, they just didn't back him. So if you don't have belief in a manager, and that manager can clearly see that, then why would that manager, you know, not look at potential other jobs or availabilities? Exactly. I think it goes back on us, and it's a bad look on us. It's a bad look on us as a team. We just didn't have faith in him. We didn't have faith in him, and we didn't pull the plug early.
And something that stands out to me, D, people would say, well, why Leeds? Why would he want to look at Leeds? Leeds were below us. Leeds backed their manager and got him all the talent that he wanted. Now, that manager couldn't do what he needed to do with what he was asked for. So, in essence, he looked at Leeds and said, well, Leeds gave Marsh exactly what I am wanting from where I am right now. Why wouldn't the manager want to go to a club where they felt like, not only can I work with the talent that they have, the club is going to work with me and get me any additional players that I want to be in. I want to be in that situation compared to where I am right now, where I'm not listened to, I'm not appreciated, I'm not getting the opportunity to negotiate for a new contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't he look into those things? It doesn't. Like, I'm not surprised.
Exactly. I mean, if someone, forget about Viera, if someone offers you're at workplace and you feel like you're limited and you can't grow in a workplace, and another company comes, a rival company comes, and they're like, if you join us, we can offer you better opportunities, we can develop you a bit better, we can give you, you know, the resources needed. Why on earth would you stay at the workplace? Because clearly that workplace has hit a ceiling, the current workplace. So of course you're going to look at other jobs, you're going to look at other rivals and try to better yourself. Because at the end of the day, it goes two ways. Yes, we brought in Viera and gave him an opportunity, but then if you stop having faith in him and, you know, don't want to offer him more players or don't want to back him in terms of contract talks that you promised that you will do after the World Cup, then of course that manager's going to look elsewhere and start planning elsewhere, because it was never going to work out. But yeah, there's a comment from Lewis who said, DNT, do you think Parish and Texter will speak to the fan base soon and reassure us or not? We need answers. No, I don't think Parish will.
I don't think they will.
I don't think Texter will as well. First of all, based on the reports that we've been hearing over the past few months, they're clearly not getting along with each other. So I don't expect both of them to come out and answer it. And, you know, back in the day, Parish used to come out. Back in the day, before this was called Backward, then it used to be called Homes and Radio. 5-year plan as well. He used to be on these platforms. But now I honestly feel like he's lost it all. You know, he doesn't have the guts to face the real questions. And if he did, I would respect him for that, but he just doesn't. Yeah, I think that raises that just makes me lose more respect for him as well. Over the years he's moved away. He's moved away from answering questions, which he used to do.
You know what, Lewis? I think, and And honestly, I think Parrish's idea of speaking to the fans and coming out and trying to reassure us was the interview that he did from his car, trying to explain why they sacked Patrick Vieira. I think
And that
that
was
was him
because of the
trying
foul
to,
in front of him.
yeah.
And he was not going to stop for that as well.
I think that in his mind was him coming out and addressing the fan base and trying to explain why they did what they did, which in essence really had no depth, which had no train of thought, which had no plan in place, anything like that. It sounded like everything that he did was off of emotion. Like everything that he did was off of fear of
Fear of
what,
relegation.
yeah, fear of what could be or what could come. You know what I mean? It's almost like Parrish was probably reading Twitter a little bit too much and got scared. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where his statement seemed like it came from. So, in being honest, Lewis, I agree with D. I don't think we're gonna see it, and we definitely want to see it from Texter because Texter is being silenced from speaking on the club, probably by Parrish, to be honest. So.
Yeah, Texas left social media platforms as well. He's not even on Twitter anymore, so that wouldn't happen. But I would expect Texas to do it more than Steve Parish. Steve Parish will be, behind Palace TV, answering the questions that he set up and he wants answers.
Yep,
You
the
get it. He's not
prompted
gonna.
the prompted question. But I wouldn't be surprised. He could be crafting or having somebody craft a very curated interview to try to release to make him seem like he has good intentions or that they actually have a plan in place, which we know they don't.
Yeah. But look, let's move on to the final bit of story, and then we can answer a few questions and then wrap it up. But the final bit of story is on Sam Johnson, and that is based on Alan Nixon's latest report, the journalist, and he has said that Palace would sell Johnson for around £5 to £6 million at the end of the season. So it seems that we're open to selling Sam Johnson. For me, I wouldn't be too disappointed if Johnson was to leave because ever since he's joined Palace, there's been injury concerns. He hasn't had that many games. Right now, he should be stepping up to the plate now that Vicente's out injured, but he's also out injured. And in terms of age, no, he's not the oldest in terms of goalkeeper age, but I would have always liked a younger goalkeeper. You're a younger goalkeeper that can grow at the football club. Both Vicente and Johnston. Johnston is younger than Vicente, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised. It clearly hasn't worked out. Johnston's had a few injuries. And if it was, to get a bit of money for him, £5 to £6 million, just basically get whatever you can and then move on, I'd be all right with that. But then again, you have to look at potential replacements because we'll have Joe Whitworth, maybe Owen Goodman, and also Vicente Guaita. So do you want to have two youth goalkeepers and one senior one when Vicente's going to leave? I wonder what approach we take. But for me, I wouldn't be too disappointed if Sam Johnson was to leave. But Alan Nixon's reported £5 to £6 million for UT. Sam Johnson, how would you sum up his time at Palace so far?
Non-existent. I mean, we could have had the same season, done all the exact same things without him being here. And that's just the truth of the matter. So to me, being able to get 5 or 6 million for him, I mean, we're making a profit. You know what I mean? Because we didn't pay for him. We got him on the free, minus wages. If we get 5 or 6 million, we made a profit on him. I think my only point of contention comes in the fact of who are we bringing in if we get rid of him? Who's going to be our backup goalkeeper? Are we going to promote Joe Whitworth? Or we're going to make him full-fledged first teamer and make him our backup goalkeeper? Is that what we do? If that's the plan, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? But have a plan. Don't just sell him and not have an understanding what we're going to do after we make the move.
I want to answer this question. Everybody's slating Parish as if it was his decision alone when it wasn't. The fact is all investor board owners voted majority for Viera out. So you tell me where that's happened and then I'll believe it. Because Parish is the one that has a golden share, which many people don't realize. He owns 10% of the company, but he has a golden share. So he has a say in terms of who's the decision making. He's the main decision maker at the club. He runs the club day to day. So wherever you can find that is the case, then I would agree with it. But you also said, Aaron, that we're making claims that ain't true. So you told me where we're wrong, and it's not a fact, bro. I'm telling you, it's not a fact. It's not a fact. So you told me where you can find that, then I'll say, cool. fair enough. Because you said some other stuff in the past as well that wasn't.
And I mean,
not to
mention, we could be quite honest. Behind the scenes, he might. I mean, it might not be too hard to convince other people that their investment is in danger. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he literally has a golden share. Like, he literally has a golden share. This is the fact. He literally has a golden share. Owns 10% of the club, but he has a golden share, so he has the main say, and he's the chairman running the club day to day. I don't know where, because I also saw reports that there were a few people that didn't want Vieira out. This was before Vieira got sacked.
They said They said when the owners met together, there were dissenting opinions about who wanted Viera to go and who wanted Viera to stay.
Exactly, and not everyone wanted Vieira out. So how come no one wanted Vieira out, and the day after he gets sacked?
So what's the majority? If anything, there was dissenting opinions. There are some that wanted, someone that don't, and Parrish made the final decision of making the move.
Nah, I mean, there's nothing about that being a fact. Parrish told you already. You came out in the news and spoke with all the shareholders, and I'll be real. I watched the same interview, and there's the Parrish. I can't remember Parrish saying he spoke with all shareholders, and the majority agreed. He basically said that it was time for Viera to move on, and I didn't hear anything about that. But I saw exactly the reports out there that was suggesting that not everyone wants Viera to leave. So he has a golden share. This is the fact. He owns 10% of the thing. He has a golden share, and he has the final say. So yeah, I don't know where we've got that, because if you can find it, then I would 100% agree with you, bro. But I haven't seen anything as concrete as all the board agreed or all the directors. I haven't seen anything like that. Like, I genuinely haven't seen anything suggesting that everyone agreed on this. I saw quite the opposite. I saw that people in the board disagreed, which makes sense because we can see that there's a rift between Tex and Parrish from ages ago. So clearly they're not on the same wavelength and they don't agree with a lot of things. So it would make sense if they disagreed on this matter as well. So yeah, that's how I see it as well. But yeah. But look, any other stuff that we haven't covered? We talked about Sam Johnson as well. Any other last words, T, before we wrap up?
I mean, if there was anything that I had to say, hope for, is just the fact that love the club, want the club to be successful, and of course at this point stay in the Premier League and progress. But I think we just need to be run a little bit better, man. I mean, I think there's too many marked issues or things that we've done in the past without planning, without solid planning behind it, man. I think it's really coming home to roost right now. So I mean, I would hate to see our team go down. I mean, there are some fans that feel like we need to, in order to truly, quote unquote, reset or whatever. But I don't feel like that's necessary. I just feel like something has to be done in order for us to be run better. I don't know if that's Steve Parrish, stepping out of his position, and we are establishing a more modern and streamlined front office structure, or whatever it is. But I just hope that the club can get the ship righted.
I'm laughing because I know someone from work. He's off work. He's an Arsenal fan. Last week we were just talking about the game, and yeah, they did smoke us 4-1. But look, stay off work, bro. You need a bit more rest. We'll talk when you come back from work, but stay off work, bro. I'm not gonna say the words yet. You still got some tough games coming up against Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City. So we'll talk after them games. But that's funny. But look, we're gonna wrap this up now. We've been talking for how long? Nearly an hour.
Man, nearly an hour.
Yeah. But look, we're gonna see what's gonna happen, bro. We're gonna see what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a long week. If Roy Hodgson gets announced, of course, we're gonna be here for all the latest news. As always, if you do enjoy the content, leave a like and subscribe. Appreciate everyone who's joined in live for the show, and appreciate you T as well for jumping in as well. We'll be back potentially tomorrow. Yeah, possibly tomorrow for another live Palace news. There'll be something popping up. But look, that's it from me and T. And until next time, up the Palace.
Of the Palace.